How can you let that go past you and still show up as the person you want to be? Okay. Not get hooked by it, in other words. Hello, hello. Amira Alvarez here, founder and CEO of The Unstoppable Woman. And I'm so happy you're here listening to another episode of the podcast. We are going to be diving into today, in honor of Thanksgiving here in the United States, this idea of what happens if your family doesn't get you, right? Sometimes we can love our family a lot, but still they don't get us. We don't feel understood. We don't feel seen. We don't feel like we belong even. All of those things can be part of the Thanksgiving experience. And sometimes we push that away and don't want to look at it because we want to be all about family and grateful. And we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And sometimes we are dreading going to Thanksgiving because we think it's going to be another repeat of what it is every year. And we're going to end up frustrated and feeling bad and not feeling connected and not feeling understood, even maybe getting into, arguments or, annoyances with people in your family. And sometimes we don't want to look at that because we want it to magically go away or magically be great. And sometimes this might not be an issue for you. You might have a stellar experience on Thanksgiving with your family. You might love it. And when you listen to this episode, I encourage you to look for that incremental improvement, that place where you can take good to great and great to excellent and excellent to extraordinary, right? Like there's always that 1% shift that will really take your experiences to the next level. So we don't have to look at this like everything is wrong and nothing is right. That is binary thinking. That's black and white. And there's a lot of gradation there. However, you don't want to go into the good enough state either where they're not all bad. So why should I even ask for more in myself or in my relationships, right? So this is the problem here is nobody gets me. And it can be with your family, which is what we are generally looking at with Thanksgiving, though you might be going to Friendsgiving, right? Like a Thanksgiving with your friends. And that's a little bit different, but you still might have the experience of nobody gets me. And it can be around Thanksgiving, but it can also be around that your friends aren't entrepreneurs. The people in your life are just not growth driven in the same way that you're growth driven. They might not be risk takers in the same way that you're a risk taker. They might not be looking for opportunities and problem solving in the same way that you're doing it. They might not work at the speed that you work at. Okay. So all of these things can be challenges. Your family and your friends might think differently than you. They might not see things as opportunities. They might see things as challenges or the world happening to them instead of for them. They might have completely different interests in life. Like you might be interested in business. You might be interested in leadership and what it takes to grow a team and what it takes to grow a 6-figure or 7-figure or 8-figure business. You might really be someone who is interested in those challenges, and they might be interested in, knitting or crochet or growing. My mother is a new hobby in her 80s is, planting succulents in her front yard. She's all about this. I'm not going to diminish her, but it's not my thing, right? Like that's not what I'm engaged in at this moment in my life. I've been into gardening in the past, but at this moment in my life, that's not the thing that sets my heart on fire. Does that mean that I don't listen to her? No, of course not. But when I want to really be seen and have those deep conversations about business, that's not where I'm going to go to for that. So just understand this is not a make wrong, but they just might not have the same interests that you do. And if your interests are crocheting or knitting, please don't take offense at that. However, this is a podcast for female entrepreneurs who are going for more. So you probably have some big interests around how to scale, what's stopping you from scaling, how to rejiggle your calendar, your schedule, how to lead your team, how to make more money, how to do marketing, how to do sales, how to price your offerings, how to do your business model. All of these things are of interest to you, and your family may not be people who can support that. Now, if you grew up in a business-oriented family, if you grew up with entrepreneurs, you might have a different experience, but just look at that. Okay. So you might be bored or not excited, some variation of that by their interests, and they might not care about yours, quite frankly. And that can really feel like the air has been sucked out of the room, and that you have no place to go. Okay. And you probably don't want to be pulled into that conversation and into that negativity, but you're also sort of flummoxed by, how do I stay in connection with the people that are my family and theoretically you love, while still not dropping into the negativity? So you don't want to be disconnected from your family, but you also don't want to be connected in that way. And sometimes people bond around problems. They bond around life being such a hardship, or the struggles of life. And on the one hand, we want to be compassionate with others. We understand that there are challenges in life, but you also don't want to be in the story of it has to be this way. So that can be a challenge. And there's a time for boundaries, for sure. There's a time to set boundaries with your family, especially if you have the experience, and this is not everyone's experience, but the experience of being in toxic relationships with, say, a narcissistic mother, father, sister, brother, right? Or someone who has another sort of issue that you can't control, but you also don't want to put yourself at risk to being manipulated by, or held hostage by, or somehow triggered by. There is a time and a place for boundaries, and there's a way that we do this, way that I teach this. So that's not the topic for this conversation, but there is a way of handling that. Okay. So wherever there's a challenge or problem, there is a solution. This is the law of polarity at play. The law of polarity says everything is created as a whole. There are no halves in the universe. So if there's a problem, there's always a solution. They are connected. The problem doesn't sit out there in the world on its own uniquely. The wholeness of that is that there's a solution. You can think of this as two sides of the same coin. You can't have the problem without the solution. You can't have the solution without the problem. It exists as a whole. Okay. Now, this is a challenge or a problem. So of course, not of course, a lot of people don't realize this, but it is, and of course for you, because you've been listening to this podcast for a while, and I talk about the law of polarity all the time, but you can't hear this too often. So there's always a solution here. So what if you could use this experience of Thanksgiving as an opportunity to grow yourself, as an opportunity to step into motion into who you want to be, okay? To call you into bigger growth. That's the opportunity here. And the framework that I'm going to give you is all about clarity, number one, being intentional, number two, and acting from the place that you want to be, not the place that you are right now. This is how you grow yourself. This is how, whether it's in your personal life like this or in your business, you have to make decisions, whether they're small or large, from the place you want to be. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to get clear, we're going to get intentional, and we're going to make decisions and take action from that place. Okay. So the first step in this framework that I want to give you is to ask yourself, who do you want to be spending your time with? So let's use this as an opportunity to get clear about that. So look at the people that you are spending Thanksgiving with. So those might be your friends or your family, but you're going to look at them and you're going to list them out. Okay. And you're going to say mother, father, sister, brother, uncle, whoever's there, cousin. If it's your friends, list the friends. If it's your in-laws, list the in-laws. And you're going to ask yourself, what are you frustrated with from your family? Okay. From these people that you're spending time with. And again, you're doing this for your friends, do it for your friends. Okay. I'm going to use family henceforth, but this works for everyone. Okay. Get clear about how they are showing up that is irritating you or frustrating you. Are they small-minded? Are they negative? Do they complain all the time? Do they have a scarcity mindset? Do they always think like, oh, that, like, are they talking about the cost of the turkey and how much they spent on the wine or whatever? And do they have, so money mindset stuff, money beliefs that you're trying to move through yourself, but you're surrounded by in that environment. Maybe they have a fear mindset. Maybe you can't stand that Uncle Joe always talks about how the economy is going to come crashing down, right? Maybe they have some sort of fear mindset, which is like comes up in bigger topics or the specific ways that they respond to you when they ask you a question and you share about your life, and then they go into fear about like, what about this? Like, get really super, super clear here. Judging and putting down. That's another big one for people to get irritated when they're very judgmental or implying that you've done something wrong or that someone else has done something wrong or putting people down, all of that. Maybe they're martyrs or they're super bossy or they're overly competitive or they're rushing all the time or they're passive aggressive, whatever it is about your family that drives you a little nutso, write that down. Don't censor yourself. Now is not the time to censor. If you really want a breakthrough, now is not the time to censor. Now, here's the thing. You might not be perfect in these areas either. That's okay. That's okay. You don't have to not put down judgy because you're judgy too in certain areas. You're still going to write it down. Okay. And C, the old adage, you get annoyed by the stuff that is a reflection of what you want to change in yourself. Just own that. It's okay. Don't make it wrong. Just own it. Okay. So you've got to see that. And you also have to see that you'd rather be with people who have moved through that or are consciously moving through that instead of people who are being unaware of this and unconscious and in their habitual patterns. Okay. This is one of the reasons that my clients join the Spirit of Wealth Mastermind and masterclasses that want to be with women who are consciously moving through their patterns and holding themselves to a higher standard. Is it about perfection? No, no one's perfect. Is it about seeing what needs to change and evolve in yourself so that you can call in something more, so that you can be working at a higher level, so that then you can receive at a higher level? Absolutely. Do I do this with myself all the time? Yes. I spent the weekend doing this with myself, not on these particular things, but I'm always looking in my business. I'm like, oh, this is who I'm being now, but where I want to be is up here. And I need to be someone who thinks like this and acts like this and makes decisions like this. So I call myself to that higher level. And this is an iterative process. So don't reject looking at this because you're not there yet, but also recognize that you want to be with people that have a higher standard and will hold you to a higher standard instead of you being the one who's having to hold that space alone. Okay. So write this all down. We have a worksheet for you that you can download if you want. If you go to the unstoppablewoman.com/E257. So E stands for episode, E257. So that's the unstoppablewoman.com/E257. And your first thing to do is to list out everything that you get annoyed with, frustrated with, triggers you with your family. The second thing is you're going to want to turn this around. What would be the opposite of that? This is a clarity piece. Most people just stay in the complaint. They go, mom is so, sister so, right? What do you want to be different? Okay. How would you like it to be? Okay. What's the opposite of that? Who would you like to be spending your time with? Someone who is ... Okay. We are not asking mom, sister, father, brother, cousin, friend, great uncle, in-law to change. Okay. We're just getting clear about who you would like to be spending time with so that you can be intentional about creating that either in your family relationships or creating that in your community. Okay. In who you actually spend time with. Okay. So acknowledge the traits. The next thing, step number 3, is to acknowledge the traits in your family that you love and are grateful for. Okay. So don't skip this, because what ends up happening is if you're only looking at the negative, that's all you'll see. And you'll get in this kind of crappy place about it. And really, there's a lot of amazing traits that your family has, even if they're kooky and crazy. Okay. So list it out. You can skip people who are completely toxic in your life and all of that, but it would be a good exercise to see if you could stretch yourself and see if there is a quality in that person that you do admire and do respect. This is not about giving them a pass for being toxic. This is about really seeing that it's not wholly bad. Okay. So, we don't want the articulation of the things that drive you crazy to overshadow the traits that you actually love. That will put you in a bad headspace. So we want to take a moment to really see the traits that you actually love. Okay. Then the next step is to evaluate the circles that you run in and see if you're filled up with your current circle of friends with these traits that you desire. So you've articulated, I want to be with these kinds of people. I want this kind of energy. I want this perspective in life. I want them to be talking about these kinds of things. And then you're going to do a little evaluation. What does, does your team have that attitude, that perspective, that focus? Who on your team does, who on your team doesn't? What about your nuclear family, the family that you've created, or your boyfriend or your girlfriend, right? Or your friends? Who in that intimate circle that you run in has those kinds of qualities? Are you filled up there, or are you lacking some there? You're going to want to look at team, family, boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other, all of that. And in team, I'm including business partnerships, contractors, employees, all of that. Your support, your personal support group, if you have a housekeeper or personal assistant or personal chef, right? And I realize that not everyone has all those things, but I'm listing them for the people that do. And if you're saying, oh, I'd really like that, just make a note of that. Desire is causative. Okay. So team, nuclear family, and, boyfriend, girlfriend, partners, friends. Okay. And then what about your existing business community? Do you have enough there, right? Do you have a mastermind? Do you have a business bestie? Do you have enough of that in your life that it holds you, calls you forward, and takes you into more networking groups also, right? Okay. And you're going to rank these however you want to rank them. 1 to 10, poor, good, great, excellent, extraordinary. Okay. Where do you actually want more? The ranking is just to get you clear about where you want to grow, where you want more. Okay. So own that desire. Don't go, oh yeah, I wish I could have that, but, maybe next year, maybe some other time, right? Own it. This is what you want. Desire is causative. If you say later, it's like you're giving the big middle finger to the way spirit works through you, which is to give you a desire, to show you this is your path. This is how you grow into more. It's through desire. Okay. Next step. What can you do? Just list this out. What can you do? What can you do to create that in your life and business? Okay. List out all the ideas you have. Just brain dump. Okay. Next step. Circle or check or write down the top 3 actions that you can do now and put a little note next to them. How quickly can you do that? Success loves speed. Be a quick decider. Be a quick action taker, right? What are the top 3 actions, and can you get them done today? Can you just put them in action right now? Okay. Now, what can you do about this Thanksgiving or any other event? You can make it work. So how do you do that? Okay. Redefine that it's not about them being different. It's about you being different. Okay. So it's not about them being different, but it's about self-ownership, personal responsibility. I have to call myself to a higher level. I have to be someone for whom that doesn't bother me. I have to be someone who works at a higher level. I have to be someone who creates what she wants in her life by taking different actions and making different decisions. So here's a question that you can ask yourself. If they are blank, judgy, blaming, victimy, complaining, whatever it is, okay, manipulative, passive aggressive, whatever the frustration is, how can you let that go right past you and be how you want to be? How do you want to show up? How can you let that go past you and still show up as the person you want to be? Okay. Not get hooked by it, in other words. So write it out. If they blank, I blank. Okay. So you're road mapping what you're going to do. If they blank, I do this. I blank. Okay. You're road mapping for your mind. You're getting clear in advance. You're giving yourself a direction, a path, so that you're not blindsided and and just in your reactive pattern. Okay. So write it out. If they blank, if they're blaming, if they're judgmental, if they're wronging, if they're rushed, whatever it is, I do blank. Okay. Now, very important. Listen up here. Very, very important. There's a litmus test to this. If you say, if they blank, I do blank. And what you come up with, you have like that hook inside of you. You get a clutchy stomach or a clutchy chest, or your throat tenses up. You feel constricted in your body someplace. You know that you haven't gotten to the way you actually want to show up, actually want to be. So you have to do a little bit more thinking, more work there, and hold yourself to a higher standard. Okay. Now, there could be 15, 20 things on your list. That's not going to be setting yourself up for success if you try and change all of those. So you're going to pick your top 3. Okay. If they blank, I do blank. If they blank, I do blank. If they blank, I do blank. So there's 3 of those that you're picking, and you're going to run the movie in your mind. When mom says boo and I get triggered like this, I am going to show up like this instead. Okay. And you run the movie, you see yourself showing up that way, and you're going to see if you need to fine tune that in any way based on what's happening in your mind. So this is not about perfection. This is not about you being perfect today, on Thanksgiving, any day, but it is about holding yourself to a higher standard. So not letting yourself off the hook, but also not making yourself wrong if you're not perfect. Okay. It's also about not changing them. Quite frankly, you can't. You can't change others. You know this already. Okay. It's about changing yourself. That's the only way you get different results in life. So it's not about staying where you are and magically thinking that it's going to be different this Thanksgiving. Okay. Or that the world needs to change to fit your, new perspective or mindset and any of that. You have to show up differently. So make this small decision. This is called a small decision, but it will have a big impact. Okay. This is one of those 1% shifts. Like if I shift myself 1%, it's going to have this major impact. Okay. And maybe there's some big decisions that you need to make as well. Again, we talked about creating boundaries, with super toxic people. And maybe there's some big decisions that you need to make around who you're hanging out with too. Okay. Like maybe you need to, one of the biggest things that I've done in my life is put myself in the environment of people who hold me to a higher standard. And I still do that. You've heard me mention being part of a mastermind. I put myself in a place that holds me to a higher standard. So whether you reach out to us, and you can do that on our website, there's a consult button. So you can schedule a call or use the chat bot, and reach out to us. We'll have a conversation and see if this mastermind that we have, the Spirit of Wealth, that's enrolling now, is the right thing for you. If it's not, all good, but it might be the absolute perfect thing for you. And if you're listening to this later, please reach out to us and see when the next time we're enrolling is, and we'd be happy to talk to you about it. But whether it's this mastermind or another mastermind or another environment that is going to hold you to a higher standard, you have to make that kind of big decision for yourself. It will serve you so well. Okay. So the last thing that I want to leave you with is all of this works if you work it, right? If you just listen to this and go on to the next podcast or go on to the next thing that you're doing in life, but you don't take 10 minutes to download the worksheet and fill it out and get super, super clear, set your intentions, make decisions, and take different actions, nothing will change. Okay. So 10 minutes, give yourself that gift and make that happen for you. So again, you can download this at the worksheet at theunstoppablewoman.com/E as an episode, E257. Okay. That's it. Rock it out. Be unstoppable. And I'll catch you in the next episode. Thanks for listening. Bye. Hey, thanks so much for joining us and being part of the Unstoppable Woman movement. We have got a ton of free resources for scaling your business at theunstoppablewoman.com/free stuff. And you can find that link in the description below. So go ahead and check those out. And we'd also love your help in getting our message out to more and more women. If you'd be willing to share this video with all the unstoppable women in your life, that would be fantastic. And while you're at it, hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Reviews, likes, and comments are greatly appreciated. We go in and read them all. So thank you for those. And thanks for listening, and be unstoppable.